any one thing that I want to
Okay.
to really get in on, but
Well, we'll see how this goes. So,
yeah.
you ready?
Yep, rolling.
Okay. My name is Ed Clendenin. We're at the 2007 annual reunion of the 376 Bombardment Group. It's September 7th, and your name is.
Wendell Wilkins.
And when and where were you born?
I was born in Grand Ledge, Michigan, in 1921,
1921.
and I've always lived in that area, except for when I was in the military.
No. So on December 7th of 41, you were roughly 20, 21 years old, 19 years old?
In that area.
So you were out of high school? Were you going to college? Were you working? What were you doing before Pearl Harbor?
Well, let's see, 40. I was going to college, Michigan State.
Michigan State, okay.
Yes, and also in my spare time, assisting my father on the farm.
And a farm.
Yeah, he
Okay.
had a farm, and he was very insistent that I keep working.
Did he want you to take over the family farm?
Yes,
Okay, and you wanted to go to college and
yes.
study something,
Do something else.
do something else, okay.
Yes.
I see. So the war happened, did you enlist? Were you drafted?
I enlisted
When?
in November of 1942.
November 42, okay.
Yeah.
And did you want to go into a particular branch? Did you want to go in the Army Air Corps? Or?
I wanted to go in the Air Corps. When I was in college, I took infantry, ROTC,
Uh-huh.
and I was thinking that wouldn't necessarily appeal to me. I'd rather be in the Air Force,
Okay.
Air Corps at that
Air
time.
Corps.
And so I enlisted.
Okay. And did you have a particular, did you want to be a pilot or a navigator or a gunner, or did you have anything planned or idea what you'd like to do at that time?
Well, I wasn't really high on flying.
Oh, okay.
That may sound rather odd, going to the Air Force, not fly, but I wanted to be a ground mechanic,
Okay.
which I was for.
Is this because of your farm? You had
Yeah.
a working knowledge of
Yeah.
machinery?
And I had gone to a aircraft school out in California also prior to my enlisting in the service out in Glendale, California, Curtis Wright Technical Institute.
Now, this was after Michigan State? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
And so I wanted to get in as a mechanic. And I did do that for a couple years.
Okay. Then what happened?
Well, all of a sudden they came through and they said, you're going to aerial gunnery school.
Okay.
And that wasn't necessarily pleasant news to me, but I thought, well, I can do it. And I did. Went to Las Vegas to aerial gunnery school.
Now, what time was roughly this? 43?
This would be in 1943.
43. Okay.
Yeah. And so I took the gunnery course and flew on B-17s there.
Uh-huh.
But when I got out of there, they assigned me to B-24s, which I knew nothing about,
Okay.
and which is typical of Army
Uh-huh.
procedure.
Yes.
And I had during the time that I first went in and prior to going to gunnery school, I went to tech schools, a couple of them,
Uh-huh.
engine school,
Right.
and then I went to a specialized school in Patterson, New Jersey on Wright engines. Well, I never was around a Wright engine after that, but it was helpful.
Okay.
And
So they made you an aerial gunner and sent you to B-24 school or to a B-24 base?
yes, went to B-24 base. And,
Which base was that?
I was at many bases,
Many. Okay.
many, but I won't even try to list them all.
It's okay.
But I was assigned to a crew at Gowan Field
Idaho?
at Boise, Idaho.
Boise, Idaho. Yeah.
Yes. And prior to that time, I hadn't seen any of those people that I was going to fly with.
Uh-huh.
And they were all assigned to the crew without an engineer prior to this time. So they picked up an engineer that they knew nothing about too.
So suddenly you're made an aerial gunner engineer and you're assigned to a crew.
Yes.
Okay.
And so at Boise, Idaho, we went through the phase training.
Uh-huh. And what is phase training?
Phase
entail?
training is all types of cross-country flights, night flying, whatever. It's supposed to have a little bit of everything.
So you already had the enlistment and the officers at this point.
Yes.
Who was your pilot?
Pilot was Gerald Duncan
Gerald Duncan. Okay.
from Dallas, Texas.
Oh, okay.
And he was a very good pilot. And we had a good crew, very good crew. I was very proud of our crew. We didn't make mistakes, and the pilot drilled it through as much as possible that we study our job and get to know it as best that we could possibly do. And it was of tremendous help to us.
So how long were you at Idaho, at Gowan Field?
Oh, I've kind of forgotten how long the phase training was there, but maybe 3 months.
So then what happened?
From there, we were sent to Topeka, Kansas to be assigned to some group that was preparatory to going overseas. And while we were at Topeka, they allowed us to go home on a leave, and with the idea that we came back in about 12 days, which we did. Then at Topeka, we left there, and our crew went to Newport News, Virginia, with many other crews.
Uh-huh.
And we did not fly over. We
Went by
took a,
boat.
we took a Liberty ship over,
Uh-huh.
and we were in a convoy that lasted 26 days. And when we first started out, the water was extremely rough, and it was kind of a
Did you get seasick? Was that your first
yes,
time?
yes, I got seasick. Didn't think I would because of flying experience, but I'll tell you that continual tossing of like a cork, it got to me finally.
And when you left Newport News, did you know you were going to Italy, or did you
No.
think?
We had no idea
Yeah.
where we were going. That was a lot of speculation
Okay.
there, and no one could tell us. They wouldn't tell us.
Did you think you might? I mean, did you know you were going to Europe, or was it possible you could be
Going
to
to
Pacific?
Europe,
You knew you were
yes.
going to Europe.
Going to Europe, thought probably it was England,
Okay.
and we found out, about halfway through our trip that no, we were going to the Mediterranean area.
Okay. Was that? Were you disappointed?
No.
Or did you?
Didn't matter.
Didn't matter.
Didn't matter. One's as good as the other. So we didn't get to the 8th Air Force, and we went to the 15th.
And when did you arrive at the
Well, we got there in October of 44.
October of 44? Okay.
Yep. And after a few practice missions, we started
Flying real machine.
flying the real McCoy.
Uh-huh.
And our first mission that we pulled was to Munich. And so that was a good initiation for us,
That was a heavily defended target, wasn't it?
quite heavily,
Okay.
quite heavily. Not as bad as some of the others, but it was heavily defended, yes.
And I forgot, which squadron were you in?
515th.
515.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And we flew quite regularly. It would go by spurts. The weather was the big factor.
A lot of overcast in Europe.
Yes,
Yeah.
there was in the fall there started a lot of rain and tremendous fog and clouds and so forth. And so on clear times, we might fly 2-3 missions in a row,
Uh-huh.
one a day.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, nothing. So then we'd lay in the tent and sleep and rest,
Sleep.
trying to get our strength back from,
Uh-huh.
because it's rather tiring.
Missions were fairly long, weren't they?
Yes, well,
12, 10, 15,
no, ours run about 8 to 9,
8 to 9 hours?
Yes.
Okay.
but that's still a long time. And to be on oxygen, very tiring.
So now you were the flight engineer.
Yes,
And I assume you manned a turret during
I
combat?
started out, I was assigned to the upper turret.
Top turret? Okay.
And after 2 flights, I went to the pilot and asked him if I could switch with somebody. Because I said, I just get up there and get all the connections made of all the wires, one thing, and then somebody wants something. And I got to get down and then maybe go to the back end,
Uh-huh.
waist area, or I might go to the front end for something. And it just wore me down.
Yes.
So yes, he assigned then the radio operator to the upper turret, and I was given a waist gun.
Okay.
And that was to my liking because it wasn't near as tiring.
Okay. So you arrived over there in October, and you'd have heavy flight missions, and the weather you'd stand down for some time.
Yeah, yeah. We had some experiences that were a little bit unusual. I know the first time that we had a problem at high altitude that I had to go from the flight deck back to the waist area to do something. We still had our bombs on board, and to get back there, it's quite an ordeal when you got a flak suit on, because the bombs were so close together that it was awfully hard to squeeze through there.
And because you had to walk through the bomb bay, right?
I had to walk through the bomb bay and with using a walk-around bottle, which normally gives you 3 minutes of oxygen
Oh, okay.
before you can plug it into the line and have it recharged. Well, I worked so hard to get back there that I didn't make it. My oxygen ran out. So I never checked in back there, and the pilot called back, says, "What's happened back there? Engineer reported yet?" "No." Says, "Check on him, he must be in the bomb bays." Sure enough, I was in the bomb bays, slumped over. I couldn't fall down because everything held me up. It was so tight.
But you were
Quarters.
passed out?
Yes, unconscious there.
So waist gun or somebody rescued you or whatever?
And all they had to do was just give me a new bottle of oxygen, pop on a new bottle,
And you
and I
woke up.
was instantly revived. That's the way it was. That was the only time that I run into that, because I knew better after that. You got to conserve that oxygen. You can't take a lot of deep breaths when you're on a walk-around bottle. You use it up far too quickly. Anyway, I got through that all right.
Okay, that does sound rather harrowing. I assume you were like 1 minute, 1 second you're awake, and the next second you're awake again, and you have no idea what happened in the middle, huh?
No. Another time, we took quite a few flak hits, just scattered little holes, small holes.
Right.
One of the hits was not necessarily small, it was larger, and it severed quite a few hydraulic lines in the Bombay area. We had been over the target, but so the bombs were gone, but these hydraulic lines were severed, and something had to be done. They had to stop the hydraulic fluid from running out,
right?
Because for landing we wouldn't have any flaps, brakes,
right?
Anything like that. So that's up to me. That's my job.
Yeah.
And due to the circumstances there, I went out there with a walk-around bottle in the Bombays.
Out into the Bombay, okay.
And that is an experience that you cannot describe, to go out and be on this catwalk with the bomb doors open and that wind whipping through there coming up on you. It just...
So the Bombay doors were open while you were
They were open because no hydraulic fluid to close them.
Okay.
And so I went out there and got the hand crank and cranked. First thing I did was crank the doors shut.
Okay.
Seal off that air from coming in, because that is miserable.
I would imagine.
And to look down
18,000 feet and 20,000.
several thousand, to look down is a little bit scary. Yes, okay.
Meanwhile, you have this 3-minute oxygen bottle.
Yeah, I had to keep having someone hand me a fresh one.
Okay.
And I got the hydraulic lines crimped in places where they needed to be, and repaired as best I could. And then I drained hydraulics out of the tail turret, because we had to have more fluid in there. Poured that in there, get that in. We'd have brakes. That was the main thing I was thinking of: brakes and flaps. For landing. And by some dumb luck, it worked.
Now, were the hydraulic lines redundant, or was there only like one line to the brake? In modern day airplanes, they talk about the redundancy of the lines.
Well,
did you have redundant hydraulic lines?
I don't recall just how that was now. A little too long.
That's okay.
But anyway, the Bombay areas was full of hydraulic lines. Just waiting to be severed by flak. There's no protection for them at all, you know.
So could you identify which line went to what system? Is
Is
that part of your job?
part of my job? Yes.
Okay.
And it's a little difficult, but I managed somehow.
So you could walk back there and look at it and say, oh, there's the main brake line and it's been severed?
Well, almost that simple, but not quite, but almost. Anyway, we got it going, and but not knowing whether it would hold, we'd have enough brakes. I had to take a couple of parachutes, tie them to the gun mounts in the waist, so that if the brakes weren't going to hold, we'd dump a parachute out to help slow us down. And didn't have to do that, but I had them ready. So that it would. But I think probably the scariest thing for me in flying was this weather that I spoke about before,
Uh-huh.
the fog. If you're flying along and all of a sudden you go into that fog, and all of a sudden, we know the sky is full of airplanes. It's a whole, it's just full of airplanes. All of a sudden you can't see any, and you
And you're in
can't even see your wingtips.
And you're in tight formation.
Yes. And so the idea is for the pilot to hold on a straight and narrow. Don't deviate one
Right.
bit.
Right?
Otherwise, mid-air collision, because, and that happened,
That
unfortunately.
happened, unfortunately?
Unfortunately, it happened to many crews. That was a terrible thing, but it did happen. So, thinking back on it though, I remember how scary that would be. Everybody going to some post to look out and try to look and see if they'd see an airplane getting close to us,
Closer.
coming in from the side, so we could alert the pilot. And I don't know what he could do, because he couldn't go up or down, because
Right.
there's planes all over.
Sure.
But anyway, we weathered through it.
Could you sense that the pilot was getting tense because he knew he had to?
I knew he was white knuckle,
Yeah.
that it was a harrowing experience to
Sure.
not be knowing where you, because you're looking all the time to see if someone else is coming down a little bit or someone is coming up.
Or moving to the
Right.
side or whatever.
But we were lucky, so no problem.
Okay. By that time of the war, the German fighters were not very frequent.
Not too frequent.
Did you?
Frequent enough, but not too frequent. But with us, they generally would fly out on our wing, be out there a ways.
Uh-huh.
We'd recognize them, one thing or another. But they were having such problems then of fuel shortage,
Uh-huh.
one thing or another, that we were fortunate in that respect that they weren't harassing us,
They were
but
just,
they were there waiting for someone to fall out of formation, and then
then they go after.
they'd take care of you.
Okay.
Yeah.
There also were stories about them flying up there so they could radio altitude and speed and direction down to the anti-aircraft.
That's true. Exactly. They were in communication with points ahead and telling them where they were herding us like sheep.
Uh-huh. Now, when you were in the top turret, but could you, when you were, well, maybe you couldn't see it, but could you see the flak field ahead as you were flying into
Yeah.
it?
I could see it from the upper turret, and I could also see it when I was on the flight deck. I was on the flight deck quite a
Uh-huh.
bit. And it was a rather eerie feeling to be flying and look up there and see a place like Vienna up ahead, and over the city it's all black with flak. I'd say something to the co-pilot. I said, "We going through that?" He'd nod. No, we did.
But you did.
Yeah. We went to several targets in the Vienna area. Oil refineries, railroad marshaling yards, railroad bridges.
I've heard that outside of Berlin, the Vienna was the most heavily defended.
I believe
from
that.
an anti-aircraft standpoint.
It was by far our toughest target.
Toughest target.
Yeah. They had a lot of guns there, and we had a great deal of respect for their ability.
To shoot. Now, when you arrived, Pulesti had already been run over, so you never flew to Pulesti, is that?
No,
Because
No.
by the time you got there, they had overrun it.
that is true. But with Vienna, as other major targets, if it was a clear day, they'd use smoke pots
Ah, okay.
to put up a
Obscure.
smoke screen
Uh-huh,
to obscure their target.
okay,
And we would bomb through that, of course,
sure.
with our instrument bombing, but you couldn't see your results so
Results.
well.
But they would still be shooting flak at you,
Oh,
even
yes, yeah.
even though you're using smoke, okay. At that time of the war, weren't we starting to bring in Pathfinder airplanes and
Yes,
did you
Yes.
fly missions with those types of
yes.
airplanes? Okay,
We flew one of those, we called them Mickey ships.
Mickey ships, okay.
Yeah, that's what we call them. I don't know, we flew one, about 3 times we flew Mickey ship.
Your crew actually flew?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
We flew it and had the Mickey Navigator.
So they had a special navigator?
Yes, they had
Okay.
one. And,
And did your normal navigator fly with you also?
Yep.
Okay, what did the Mickey Navigator do? I mean, I
They
don't
just,
know.
he just used his radar. He was on the flight deck.
Okay,
And he used to point out to me different cities, one thing another, as we were
Uh-huh.
going over them with this big screen that they had there. And it was very interesting to see. You get a map of Europe right there.
so you could see through the fog or the smoke or whatever? More
To
or
a
less?
point.
To a point?
To a point. Yeah, you could see some things.
Now, were the Mickey ships in the lead?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah, we flew lead then.
okay.
Hmm.
And did your crew more or less stay together as a group through
Yes,
through your
more or
mission?
less.
More or less?
Only thing like someone was sick someday, but they wouldn't fly with us that day, and they'd make it up on another crew or something like that.
Did you ever fly with another crew?
Yes, did.
Okay,
Yeah, about 3 times.
3 times.
Hmm.
And when were you? And you flew 50 you flew 50 missions?
Well, 50 missions, 35 sorties.
35 sorties, 50 missions.
I usually now use the term sortie and call it a mission, so that when you're talking with someone from 8th Air Force or something, you're not kidding them on how many times you went to the target.
Because some sorties counted double mission.
Yes.
Correct, right.
Yes, they did.
Okay. So you actually had, you said 35 sorties.
Sorties.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a trip to the
Takeoff
target.
and a landing.
Yeah.
And then some missions you got to, if it was, you mentioned the weather, and you would turn back, did that count as a mission, or did sometimes not count as a mission, or what was the,
There you hit on, that's a kind of a political thing.
okay,
If there happened to be a high-ranking officer in that group flying that day, it counted.
it counted. I
It
see.
counted. If there wasn't one, it probably would not count.
Oh, so you always wanted a colonel or higher on the mission somewhere.
Yeah.
Huh? I see.
Yeah.
So you're always trying to talk Colonel Graff into flying?
It helped.
It
for
helped.
anything like that, because they weren't going up there without credit for it.
Sure. So when did you complete your 35th mission?
Probably first 10 days of April 45,
Well, that was near the end of the 376 operation.
very near the end.
Okay,
They flew very little after that, maybe 3-4 missions, that's it.
okay. And then I assume you rotated home, or
Yeah,
did you fly a plane back, or when it got on board another troop ship?
got on this time it wasn't a Liberty ship, it was a troop ship.
Uh-huh.
We came back in, I think it was 9 days.
And did your whole crew come back with you?
No, pilot. The officers flew back, but I didn't want to fly back.
Oh, okay.
And
Why is that?
I'd had enough of it for a while,
Okay,
and I didn't want to fly back, so
so the officers flew a plane back, and you and some of the enlisted took a troop
Mhm.
ship back.
yep.
Okay. And what did you do after you returned to the United States?
Well, we came back. When we went over, we left from Newport News. When we came back, we came into Boston
Uh-huh.
and we're at Camp Miles Standish there in Massachusetts. And then they sent us from there to our homes, and from there we were to go to a rest camp. We went to Florida.
Uh-huh.
Didn't last long. They said we'd get at least 10 days. We didn't. More like 6.
I'd heard that they were considering rotating some of the European bomb groups over the Pacific.
That's what we were informed, and so we weren't too elated when we came back. When we get back, we just have to train to go to South Pacific, and we weren't.
Was your group still intact? I mean, were you going to have to ultimately link back up with Duncan and be?
That was
that the theory?
that was not ironed out. We didn't know how
Okay.
that would be.
Were you with the other enlisted men from your crew?
I was with them some, and then I was also with Duncan for a while.
Okay.
I didn't fly for him, but I was at the same base with
Base.
him,
Okay.
and
You were still on B-24s at the time? Or
Yes.
were you training for B-29s?
no,
No?
I never was on a B-29. Just the 24s, and
So you all thought you were going to be rotated out to the Pacific someplace?
that's what we thought
Okay.
until they dropped the big one,
Okay.
and that changed everything.
Sure.
Yeah.
So at that point, the war was over and they said, you're not, how long did you stay in the service after that?
Well, I was eligible to get out then, but on points. But for one reason or another, I didn't make it out quite so soon. I got out late summer.
Late summer 45?
Yeah,
Okay. Did they try to get you to, some men stayed in the service and some did not. Did they try to get you to stay?
yes, they wanted it to.
Okay, and you said enough of this?
I had enough of this enjoyment, and I just soon do something else.
Okay. Go back to the farm?
I thought so, but that didn't work out.
Okay.
I went into construction instead.
Okay. Was your father disappointed that you
Yeah,
didn't?
very.
Okay. Did you have brothers or sisters that took the farm?
I had a
over?
sister, but no one to take the farm over. I did after I retired from construction, but not until then,
Not until then. Huh?
because I didn't want to do it to make a living at it. I just wanted to do it as a retired job.
Time. You had been going to college before the war. Did you go back to college after the war?
I wasn't in the proper mood mentally to go back. I wished I had, but I didn't do it.
You never did.
No.
Hmm.
Why
did you said you weren't in the mood. Why did you think that?
I don't know. I guess I wasn't thinking properly then. I couldn't see myself sitting down and hitting books. I just could not do that.
You wanted to be active,
Yeah,
physically active? Or
Yeah.
whatever? Is that why you went into construction?
yeah.
So did you work at construction? I mean, what type of construction, I should say?
We were in heavy construction, building
Okay.
factories, things like that. But when I first started there, it was demolishing all of the foundations for guns and things like that at Oldsmobile, places like that. They had all those things to take out.
There were
Awful.
anti-aircraft gun
Yeah,
around the factory? Really? Around Detroit?
a lot of 37 millimeter guns were made there at
Okay.
Oldsmobile, and they had a lot of other things that they made for anti-aircraft, and those machine foundations were huge, and they had to take them all out.
Oh, I see. Okay. The foundation is for the machines to make
Yeah.
the anti-aircraft. Okay.
Yeah.
So you went into in the construction? I take it you stayed in construction for the rest of your working
Yes,
life?
I did. I worked in the field for, I don't know, 3 years.
Uh-huh.
And then they took me in the office and I worked in the office.
So you ended up working paperwork anyway?
Yes, I did. I was in accounting, and then for a couple 3 years I did estimating. So I had a hand at all of it.
Ah, okay. Did you maintain contact with your other crew
Yes.
members?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We kept in contact.
Did any of them stay in the service, or did they all go off and
The
pursue
only one that
civilian
stayed in
goals?
the service was our pilot.
Duncan.
Yep.
Okay. But everybody else became a civilian and
True.
pursued their. Did anybody stay in the reserves? Or
No,
so none of you were called up for Korea?
no.
Okay. I'm glad of that.
Yeah. That
Okay.
could have been awkward situation.
Why is that?
Well, just getting your feet on the ground again and have to go
Start all over?
and leave the family. And
Uh-huh.
see, I got married while I was in the service.
Oh, really? Okay. Before you went overseas?
Yes,
Okay.
got married then because we were planning to get married before I went in, but when they let me know that it was going, it was so soon that we couldn't make it. So, and my wife and I, we had known each other all our lives and went to school together and all that. So
Did you
we got married in New Jersey, Patterson, New Jersey.
No, but you were from Michigan, right?
Yes.
So she connected up with you?
She followed me to a lot of
Followed
camps.
Camps? Okay.
Yeah.
And did you write to each other while you were
Oh, yeah.
overseas?
We did a lot of letter writing, but she followed me to so many camps there. And the Army would say, don't have your wife come along. There's no place for him to stay and nothing for him to do and all this. But she came anyway. We always found a place. And she would find a job.
Oh. What did she do?
Anything,
Anything and everything?
work in the dry cleaners on the post or something like that.
Uh-huh.
Work in a department store, anything to help pay the bills there because I wasn't getting only a pretty meager
Okay.
income.
You were talking about some of the harrowing experiences while you were running missions like the Fog and so on and so forth. Did you write to her about them?
No.
Did you keep them to yourself?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why? I'm curious. My father was the same way. What made you want to keep it inside you or not talk about it?
Well, at the time that it was happening, I wouldn't tell them anything about that. Why worry them then?
Okay. What about
Yeah,
afterwards?
I let them think it was more of a country club then.
Okay. And yet,
And then afterwards, you could gradually get into that a little bit.
did you have children?
Yeah, two.
Did you share your stories with them?
Yeah, got a boy and a girl.
Okay.
They're growing, of course,
Sure.
have their own families.
Right. Did your grandkids ask about what did Grandpa do in the war?
They don't ask me too much about it, no.
Okay. Do you think it's worth something? Do you want to? Do you want them to be able to see this interview and your description of what it was like?
Yeah, I think it would be all right. I've always made it a practice to not try to, when I'm telling experiences to people at home, it's I never put any gore in it at all. I don't want any of that.
Uh-huh.
Because they don't want to hear it, and I don't want to tell it.
Okay.
There's no need for it.
Okay.
Just say it was bad, and that's all.
Okay. Well, that's a good outlook. Did you see a lot of? I mean, you were talking about the planes crashing. Is that what you mean by describing?
Or going over a target. You're looking out, one thing another. Every once in a while, you see one get hit and blow up,
Yeah.
and that's an awful experience.
Because there were guys you knew. I mean, did you know many of the crew? Were any of your other fellow crewmen plane
Quite a-
shot down?
Quite a few,
Quite a few?
yeah.
So you came back to an
Hmm.
empty tents or empty bunks or whatever?
Yeah. In fact, when we first landed there and taken to our base where we were to fly out of, we had to stay in kind of a warehouse building there for a little while. And the next day, they moved us into a tent that the crew wasn't coming back. They knew for sure they weren't coming back, so they moved out all their possessions and moved us in.
I was gonna say, did you show up with their personal effects already
Yeah, they came
Vacated
and got all their personal
before they
effects,
put you in?
everything, yeah. So we saw how that works. They clean out the tent, someone comes in within a couple hours.
Okay. Well, we're close to running out of time. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about or comment you'd like to make?
Well, I think I've given a pretty good thumbnail sketch of what I
It was
ran
like.
into.
Well, no, okay. Well, I appreciate it very much. I enjoyed talking with you.
Well, it's been good. I've enjoyed this.
Good. And it's been my pleasure. So thanks for coming by, and we'll see you around
All right.
on the hallways.
I thank you.
Okay.